Then the next time you go to the meat counter, be sure you look for the purple shield-shaped grade stamp on the meat that you buy as your assurance of quality. You know, it's easy to be popular when you serve your family steak, but the real trick is to be economical as well. That may sound a little bit contradictory, but it can be done, and it can certainly be done with this versatile cut, this first cut of the blade chuck roast. Now, this is a very popular cut of beef among American consumers, and many families like it prepared as a pot roast. And in preparing it as a pot roast, that means cooking it with moist heat, adding vegetables as it's cooking, the vegetables that you like. But this is a very versatile cut and can certainly be used in different ways. Like most all of the beef that I buy, this roast is USDA choice, and USDA choice, this little purple shield-shaped grade stamp on the outside fat covering, represents a certain level of quality. Now, for a very special occasion, if I wanted the ultimate in quality, then I would select USDA Prime, which is the top quality grade. Or if I wanted to pot roast it like this, or cut it all up into stewing beef and make a nice beef stew, then I would select USDA Good, the next quality grade below USDA Choice. You know, beef grading is a voluntary service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Consumer and Marketing Service, and almost all of the beef that you buy in the retail meat counter is graded for quality. Two, of using this versatile cut, let me show you where it comes from in a side of beef. The first cut of the blade chuck is right next to the rib. A very tender ribeye section in the rib extends into the front of the blade chuck. And you can see with these actual meat cuts, your rib and this very tender ribeye section where you get your tender broilable ribeye steaks, and it extends into this first part of the chuck. So in selecting this particular roast, that's what you want to ask for, the first cut of a blade chuck roast. Now, it's very easy to cut this. The first thing you want to do is simply remove the rib bone along the back side. You want to cut it as close to the bone as possible, and then right next to the rib bone is this very tender ribeye section, and this is where you get your boneless, broilable, and very tender steaks. Follow the natural seam and take out this very tender part. Then let me turn this over and show you how it looks, just like that. Then you simply cut it in two for two thick, broilable, very tender ribeye steaks. Now, this section of the roast, this is the less tender part of the roast, and it can be prepared as a small pot roast, or you could cut it up into stew for stewing beef. Now, with this entire cut, let me show you what I did very quickly. Took away the rib bone, cutting as close to the bone as possible, then following the natural seam, cut out the very tender ribeye section, then this less tender part. This can be used for stewing beef or as a small pot roast. Now, if you'd like more information on the how-to of using this versatile cut or other cuts of beef, why not write for this very convenient booklet, How to Buy Beef Steaks, and its companion, How to Buy Beef Roasts. Simply write to Agriculture TV, Washington, D.C., zip code 20250. So the next time you're shopping to please your family, you can also shop to please your pocketbook by buying this very versatile cut of the blade chuck roast, and then you can enjoy good eating. Beautiful, isn't it? You know, a steak like this should be labeled "Handle with Care." And handle with care means just the right amount of cooking, the right amount of time in the broiler or cooking over charcoal, and also just the right amount of seasoning. Well, the shield-shaped quality grade mark, USDA choice stamp, on this sirloin steak speaks of a history of caring, because to qualify for the choice grade, this beef came from a young, well-fed and well-cared-for beef animal. Also, to qualify to be graded for quality, it first had to be inspected for wholesomeness. Now, this quality grade stamp represents a certain level of quality. Also, it assures you of buying consistent quality. And almost all the beef that you find in the retail meat case today is graded for quality. You see, grading is a voluntary service of the USDA's Consumer and Marketing Service. Well, this sirloin steak is USDA choice, but if I wanted to select a sirloin for a very special occasion, then I'd select the top quality grade, USDA Prime, a sirloin such as this one. And as I just mentioned, each one of these quality grades represents a distinct level of quality. Now, one other variation to the sirloin is this top sirloin. It's a boneless cut, and very often you'll find top sirloin merchandised in the meat counter just as you see it here. Also, it might be a little bit higher priced per pound. It's a very tender, very boneless cut, and it's one variation of the sirloin steak. Now, one other point about selection of your steak: be sure that you get it cut at least an inch thick, preferably 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. This particular steak is 1.5 inches thick, and as large as it is, would easily serve 5 to 7 people. Now, if you had it cut, say, 2 inches thick, then it would serve up to 8 adults. And a sirloin steak this size is certainly nice for a very special dinner party, or if you're having a special family dinner, because it's such a nice, large, convenient size. Now, to broil the steak, you simply put it on the rack in your broiling pan, and then be sure to judge the distance between the top of the steak, the surface, and your element of heat. Now, a steak like this is about 1.5 inches thick, and we'd want about 3 inches between the top and the surface of heat. A good rule of thumb for every inch of thickness between the top of the steak and your source of heat. And now it's ready to go in the broiler. The sirloin is only one of many tender and delicious steaks for broiling, and if you'd like more information on selecting and preparing these steaks, write for the convenient booklet, How to Buy Beef Steaks. Simply write to Agriculture TV, Washington, D.C., zip code 20250. Now, after that steak is cooked, and of course seasoned after cooking, then you want to garnish it properly. Make it very, very attractive. And then this suggestion on serving, since there are several different sections to the sirloin, why not slice it in thin diagonal slices like this, and then serve a slice from the various sections to the people whom you're serving. And then always remember, steak time is pleasure time. My guests will really like that. A nice thick steak, sirloin steak, broiled to perfection. You know, you can hardly go wrong anytime with any cut of steak. But there are other cuts of steak that are certainly delectable for broiling, such as a porterhouse steak, or a nice thick T-bone steak, or a rib steak, the boneless ribeye. And then, of course, you have a strip loin steak or a nice filet mignon. There are all sorts of wonderful, broilable, very tender steaks, and also very good for cooking over charcoal. In selecting these steaks, quality is very, very important. And you have 3 quality grades to select from. USDA Prime, the very top of the line, the ultimate in quality, then USDA Choice, which you find most often in the meat case of your supermarket, and the third, USDA Good. And each one of these represents a distinct level of quality. And in buying by quality grade, of course, you're assured of consistent quality. Also, all the meat that is graded in the supermarket, this is done by voluntary service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So not all beef is graded. Now let's look at all of these beautiful steaks, such as this porterhouse. You know, very often people ask me, what is the best steak to buy? And I suggest a porterhouse because really there are two steaks in one. This small round section, the tenderloin, and then if you were to cut away the larger portion, you'd have a strip steak. And let me show you like this. If you were to cut away the small round part, your filet mignon, the tenderloin, and take away this larger part, cut it away from the bone, a nice boneless strip steak. And of course, both very, very tender for broiling. Now, just a note of interest on the porterhouse steak. You know, back in the New York of the 1800s, there was a Mr. Martin Morrison who had a restaurant called Porterhouse. And at his restaurant, he served porter, a dark brown beer, and then he highlighted his menu with a delicious, delectable beefsteak, which New Yorkers associated with the name Porterhouse. So the name stuck, and that's how we know porterhouse steak today. Now, very closely related to the porterhouse is the T-bone steak. And the main difference between a T-bone steak and the porterhouse is the size of the tenderloin. It's much smaller in the T-bone, but you have the same shape of bone. Then also in the same family of steaks is the club steak. The tenderloin has disappeared, and you have this very large, tender loin section. This is a nice individual size steak for broiling. Then a sirloin steak, such as I'm cooking right now, this is a convenient large size for serving several people for a special family occasion or dinner guests. Then if your family likes a rib roast, they'll certainly like rib steak. If this were 2 ribs thick, it would be a roast. This is only 1 rib in thickness, certainly very tender for broiling or cooking over charcoal. And then the boneless ribeye steak, also perfect for broiling or cooking outdoors. So you really have quite a selection to make in selecting any of these delectable steaks. Well, let's take a look at the sirloin and see how it's doing. Just beautiful. And if you'd like more information on the sirloin or any of these steaks that I've been talking about, I'd suggest you write for this convenient booklet entitled How to Buy Beef Steaks. And you can obtain it by writing to Agriculture TV, Washington, D.C., zip code 20250. And in selecting the just right steak for your special occasion, remember that steak time is pleasure time. For menu variety and a change of pace, your friends and family will welcome broiled lamb, especially if you have nice, thick, juicy rib chops like these. You know, lamb is a pleasure to serve anytime, and anytime could be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Wouldn't these nice, thick rib chops be good for a hearty, high-protein-filled breakfast with such favorites as baked eggs, hot English muffins, and maybe orange marmalade? Now, all of the lamb cuts are very, very tender, and they're all suitable for broiling, for roasting, or pan broiling, as I'm doing with these rib chops. These rib chops are USDA choice in quality, and in buying by quality grade, you are assured of buying consistent quality. Or USDA Prime, the top of the line, assures you of the ultimate in quality. In buying by quality grade, remember you're assured of consistent quality and also buying high quality. Now, not all lamb is graded, since grading is a voluntary service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, in selecting lamb, it's important also to select nice, thick cuts, at least 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 thick. Those rib chops that I'm cooking are 1 1/2 in thickness. Well, you have such an array of lamb cuts to select from also, all tender for broiling, roasting, or pan broiling, such as lamb arm chops or lamb blade chops. Then other favorites include these lamb rib chops, such as I'm cooking now, or favorites such as lamb loin chops, sirloin chops, also leg steaks. And all of these cuts are certainly suitable for broiling, pan broiling, or any of these would be suitable for roasting. Now for an economy suggestion, let me suggest a leg of lamb. This is an entire leg with the sirloin on, and you can simply ask your meat man to slice your sirloin chops at least an inch thick off the end of this leg. Then you can use the remainder of the leg and prepare it as a roast. Of course, if it's USDA prime or choice, it would certainly be suitable for roasting. But this is a good economy cut because you can get your sirloin chops, then use the remaining portion of the leg for a roast. Now for serving lamb, it's important to select garnishes that complement the natural delicate flavor of lamb. Mint or mint jelly certainly complements lamb. Also some of your tart jellies like cranberry or can select according to your taste. And of course it's always important to make any cut of meat that when you're ready to serve it to make it very, very attractive and select the garnishes that complement the cut. Whenever you're buying lamb, remember that you will certainly add variety to your menu, and also remember to ask for nice thick cuts of lamb. Also look for this quality shield-shaped grade mark. It's just a good way to be sure of buying consistent quality.